Welcome back to the Who Am I podcast.
Wait, real quick. I'm gonna. I totally forgot to do my voice exercises.
All right. We'll get them on video. Katie, you might want to edit this.
No. This can be in our intro. This is fine.
Gosh,
I'll do
don't
it quick.
yell in the mic.
I'll do it quick. Here. Okay. Get this way. Okay, we are back.
Welcome back to the Who Am I podcast. We have a mascot.
We have a mascot. What is our mascot's name?
I don't know. I think we should think on it. Maybe once this episode gets released, we can take some feedback from.
Wait. Let's do a clap in synchronicity. 1, 2, 3. Wait, we gotta tell the, some people might listen to the podcast just in their car and not know what we're talking about right here.
Yeah.
You want to give them some context?
Well, I often envision what things are like inside of the brain of Brady Silverwood. And we were at church on Wednesday and we were hanging out afterwards. And we swung by a gas station and I saw this little clapping monkey. And his name is, his title is Wacky Monkey. And yeah, I just thought it was a good picture of what is going on in Brady's mind sometimes.
I have a lot going on in the mind.
Yeah.
You
And so this little clapping monkey is our new mascot. And I think we should wait to name him until this episode gets released and see if maybe some people have some suggestions. I think that'd be a cool thing. And if there are no suggestions, then we'll come up with a name for him. But yeah, got that at a gas station and it was screaming Brady Silverwood at me. And so I got back in the car and I was like, Brady, I got this for you.
I haven't tried the candy yet. I think possibly it could be cool to leave it as like, a little decoration, a souvenir that has just never been opened. I don't know what type of candy is in there as well.
I think it's just like sugar. Just little balls of sugar.
Yeah. It's probably just colorful. Okay.
So yeah, welcome back to the podcast. Who Am I podcast? I'm Dom. That's Brady over there. Thanks for listening. Brady, I would love to pray us in here.
Let's do it.
God, thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity to sit and talk with my best friend. God, you've gifted us in so many ways that we know, ways that we don't know. And God, let us use those gifts to glorify you. I know that these microphones are a gift. The camera is a gift. The words that we speak, if they are from you, they are a gift, God. And if they can help someone, God, we ask that you can do that. And let us give you the credit. No matter how they land, God, if it is good, it's from you. And we trust that you want to speak through us. And so here and now, God, we just ask that you can move in this room and in the hearts of people who are listening, God, and in our hearts as well. Help us to grow closer to you in this moment and grow closer to each other. God, we want to glorify you, and that is our sole purpose on this earth. And help us to do that right now behind these microphones. Help us to glorify you. And if that can heal others, if that can strengthen, empower, bring joy, love, forgiveness, or show any part of your heart to other people, God, we ask that can happen as well. We're so thankful for this time, for this opportunity, for this friendship that you've also gifted both of us with, God. Thank you. Thank you. It is in your Son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, Dom.
Okay.
I'd like to
Brady?
start us off here.
Hit it.
So you you did a little bit of a fasting recently, and this is it really caught me off guard in a great way to hear that you were going on a fast, because I've kind of shared some things that fasting has done for me spiritually. And yeah, it was beautiful to hear that you were doing one, and how, I mean, I've briefly heard about your experience so far, but I want to hear all about it. And I think fasting, it's an interesting thing that I think the culture talks about a lot today, that isn't maybe that's talking more about like your physical wellness than say your spiritual wellness. But fasting is very much derived from so many religions that believe in the power of fasting. So I think science is now talking about all the powerful impacts to fasting. But what happened? Tell us about it.
Yeah, fasting is definitely something I want to do more of. And yeah, I was reading through the Old Testament. I have been, and just a few times it stuck out to me that certain people were fasting, and for all various reasons. Some were looking to hear from God, some were grieving, some were joyful, and so there's no right or wrong season to fast in. And another thing, I don't necessarily know how to go about presenting a fast, and I was very aware during the fast, like I don't want to make it known that I am fasting. I don't want to,
Sorry about that.
I don't want to like brag at
Yeah.
like I'm fasting, or like woe is me, or like, wow, this was really hard. And so I want to say, like, first day I washed my hair, I did all my laundry, I shaved my face. Like I didn't want anyone to know. And lo and behold, I didn't have human communication for the entire fast, which was really good too. So it didn't really matter. But even in the eyes of God, I wanted to not be.
You're saying like while you're doing the fast.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I didn't want to be like sorrowful, miserable. Like I was fasting with a purpose, with intention, and that was to grow closer to God. That was the entire intention of it. And so yeah, just a 24-hour fast, 5:30 p.m. Friday to 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. No technology, no food, just water. And it was so good. It was so good. So yeah, it started Friday, read a lot of the Bible, journaled a little bit, and was just asking God to prepare my heart for whatever, that was like the first thing, turn my phone off. I actually didn't eat after like 3 p.m. So it was a little bit longer of a food fast, but was just journaling and like talking to God. Like, I want to see what you are trying to show me, whatever it is, and like prepare my heart for that. Whatever needs to be revealed, whatever words, like, and so that was Friday night, and played a lot of guitar, sweet new guitar some of my friends got me. Played a lot of guitar, read a lot of the Bible, wrote a lot. Woke up Saturday morning and same thing. I went for a run Saturday morning, and got right into the word after that. I cleaned my bathroom, scrubbed the shower, and yeah, all the things. But then got into the word, and I was in Nehemiah, and I am reading front to back, and I also have some gospels open and stuff, but I'm reading front to back in the Bible, and read through Nehemiah, and then there was Esther, and read through Esther. And then around noon, I finished Esther, and really I was feeling like I'm going to keep reading until you speak, talking about God, until I feel you calling me to something. And so I opened Job, and Job is, I don't know, a lot, 42 chapters or something. And so yeah, I started reading Job, and I've read Job in bits and pieces before, and heard stories and heard people's perspectives on Job. And so I get through like the first 10 chapters of Job, and I was like, I'm going to take a shower. Went and took a shower and sat back down, and normally I would turn on college football, but I had no technology. I was like, I'm going to read another couple chapters of Job. And so I kept reading Job. And so I got through 20 chapters, and then it's like, I kind of got to pee. I went and peed, filled up my water bottle, sat back down, and read to chapter 30, and ended up just reading Job from start to finish. And I needed that.
Why do you think you needed that?
So Job, in the book, I have been to the place where Job is like, I wish that I was not born. I have been that low. I have been. Now, I don't want to compare traumas with Job. Like, I have not had all of my family taken away and all of my belongings taken away from me. I have not had those things. And so maybe I can't relate on the deepest level to Job, but the feeling of like, I am miserable and I am depressed, I have been there. And so first off, when Job is essentially complaining to God, I was like, I can relate to all of this. All the things that you're saying, I have said them. And mine weren't even necessarily directed towards God. And so good for you, Job, that like you at least know who to direct your cries to.
Yeah.
But what spoke to me the most was God's response. Job has some amazing friends, and I even learned so much through that. His amazing friends were there almost encouraging him. They're like, Job, you have like strengthened the hands and the minds of other people when they're going through hard things. You have been that person. And so why don't you like take your own advice, essentially? Like, why? You know that God is going to use whatever's happening for good. And so Job, like, why are you sitting in this misery when you know that it's going to be good? And like his friends, I can even relate to that because I have been that person. And it's not that it's wrong or it's bad to encourage people or anything like that. But then God comes into the picture, and God is like, it is so, so poetic. And so if you get to Job chapter, I think it's 38.
Oh,
Yeah.
This was the one you just read to me. Is that?
Yeah. But if you get to Job chapter 38, that's when God starts to speak to Job. And it is so beautiful and it is so powerful. And it reminded me how small that I am. It reminded me how my life is not mine. My life is not for me. The entire purpose of me being on this earth is to glorify God. Everything that he has given me, any gift, blessing, material thing that has been given to me so that I can glorify God with it. And essentially, like, that is what God says. Like, God needs nothing from me, like absolutely nothing. And so who am I to complain about whatever is happening in my life? And God says, like, where were you when I like told the ocean to stop? When I said that's as far as you're going to go? Like, where were you when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Like, you are right, God. There are things that are beyond my comprehension that you are doing, you have done, and you will continue to do. And so who am I to complain about this, about what I am doing, about what has happened in my life, about really anything? Because, like, literally the breath in my lungs is a gift from God, and I want to use it to glorify him, not myself. And so God's response at the end is so beautiful. It's so powerful. And what I was reading to you was Job chapter 40, verse 8. This is God speaking to Job. Will you even put me in the wrong? Will you condemn me that you may be in the right? And that is, to me, so, so powerful. Like, how can I tell God that he's wrong? How can I tell God that, like, you're wrong for taking away my family, for taking away my belongings? Like, how can I tell God that? Like, that is such
when God first was the one to give you all those blessings. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, literally, who am I to tell you that you are wrong, God? And, like, it is such a self-centered thought of, like, and even Job is like, have I not been righteous in the eyes of the Lord? And it's like, how can I be righteous enough for God? Like, the second that I sinned, the first sin was committed, like, God has every right to send me to hell, and, like, eternal chaos awaits me. But out of his, like, mercy and grace, he does not give me that. And so, like, who am I to tell God that he's wrong? Even if something, like, if he allows something negative to happen in my life, who am I to even question it? Like, I want to be grateful for the breath that I have in my lungs. And when I die, I want to be grateful for that too, because then I get to go spend forever with him. But, like, in this time on our earth, in this time on earth, I have gotten so caught up in, like, dude, I've worked so hard and I've done these things and, like, I've been good. So, like, it's almost like, so
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
So what? Like, it's not for me. This existence is not for me. The things that I have, they're not for me. The entire world is not for me. And so it's just such a good reminder from God of how small I am, like how minuscule I am. And then God goes on to tell Job to go pray for his friends who are trying to encourage him, who are giving him advice. He tells Job to go pray for his friends and tells his friends to bring goats and cows to sacrifice for their sins. And that just made me think about, like, what advice am I giving people that is good? You know, like, I want it to be from God. Like, from me does no one any good. And in my Bible, towards the end, it actually, this was one of the most powerful things about it. I have a study Bible, and at the bottom of it, it said, throughout the book, like, Job didn't do wrong in the eyes of the Lord because he was talking to him. Job directed all of his complaints and all of his struggles and grief to God. He was saying, God, like, I don't want to be here. And it says all of his friends were talking about God, whereas Job was talking to God.
Interesting. Okay.
And so it's not like God was angry at Job's complaints. And I thought that was so cool too, just how like God hears it, and he wants to hear it. He wants to hear how much this sucks for you. And like,
not you telling your friends or family about it. You know, how often do we do that?
Yeah.
Like we take our complaints to others, but not to God.
Yeah. And so it was just so good. And yeah, that leads me into this morning service. We went to church, and during worship, I was just bawling my eyes out. Even at the song, it's your breath in my lungs. And
Go on.
and like I just started weeping. And I had a bunch of people text me, and I ran into a bunch of people afterwards who were just asking me like if I'm okay. And I am great. Like that was what I've told them, because I am. Like it is, Job put into perspective the awe of God. The like incomprehensible magnitude of the things that he has done. Like that I will never understand. Like, were you there when I measured out the length of the earth? I never even thought about that. Like, how did he decide how big it was going to be? And I like just picture God with like a tape measure. Like it's going to be, this is going to be the circumference right here. And it's like, I never even thought about that, but you did it. And just, that is such a even small thing in the giant, enormous, like infinite God that like we worship. And so I was like in church today weeping. People are like, you okay? I'm wonderful. I just like, I was reminded of my place. That's what happened like during my fast. I was reminded of my place, and my place is to glorify God with all that I have, with every word that I say, with every gift that I have, with every material thing that I have. Like my place is to glorify God. None of this is for me. Like none of it is for me, and I want to glorify him with it. And that's the only way that I was designed. Like at the bare bones, that is why I was designed. That's why all of us were designed. We have different gifts and we have different material things, but like that's what they are, is gifts. They are gifts, and they are gifts given to us to serve God with and to glorify God with. And so Job just really reminded me of like literally the title of this podcast, like, who am I? Like, who am I? I am nothing. In the eyes of God, he does not need me at all. At all. So it was a good fast.
Wow.
It's a good fast. Sorry, I went on a long bender there, but
no, that was awesome. Do you think when we're fasting that, you know, putting the distractions away, whether it's your phone, whether it's food, whether it's just being around people, you know, you could also, if someone listening, I thought of this earlier and didn't say anything. Like if you don't even know what fasting is, it's really just say, okay, I'm going to fast from my phone. I am not going to touch my phone today. So it's like choosing something to take out of your life temporarily, you know. I guess you could do a permanent fast of your phone or whatever it is. Do you think when those distractions are put away that we're able to connect more with God, connect more with like our spirituality, emotions as well? Like, you know, to have, I think I said this to you earlier. When you came over today and shared this story, I was like, dude, what? Like I was standing right next to you during worship. I didn't even notice. I was having a vibe myself. And like, if I had seen that, Dom, my first question wouldn't have been, or I'll put it this way. I wouldn't have assumed that like, oh, Dom's going through something right now, like negative. I would have asked myself, maybe he's feeling a lot of love right now, you know? And I think we look at emotions so one-dimensionally. We look at like the physicality of a tear running down your face. But like I already know this. If God blesses me with a child, I'm gonna be bawling.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be pure joy and love and not sadness. There might be other times in my life where that is pure sadness, but tears are not so one-dimensional as like good, bad, negative, positive. And yeah, I guess full circle, my question is, do you think that emotion that came out of you today was a little bit stirred up by your fast?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I had my hands up and I was just like, you need me for nothing, but you still choose to give me everything.
Wow.
And so like, I want to give it all back to you. And in the way, like, I was just thinking about like you and our friends were so kind to like generously give me a guitar. How do I give that back to God? Like, how? What is it like? I want my fingers to bleed for God, to glorify God, because that's why I have that guitar. I don't have that guitar so like my name can be known. Like, I don't have this microphone in front of me so that my name can be known.
Right.
Like, it's for God. And if it's not, then like I'm using it wrong. And like, same with my physical body, with my personality, with the way that my brain processes things. Like, that was designed to glorify God, not because he needs anything from me. He needs absolutely nothing from me. He has everything. He designed it all of it. And he freely gives it all. And so like, I was just, dude, I was sitting there worshiping and I was like, this is freaking beautiful. This is beautiful. Like, I am so small. Like, I love to think of how strong I am and how tough I am and how much of a man I am and like how I do the right thing. Like, I love to think about that. But like my role is to glorify God. And so like, yeah, like the good things that I do, hopefully they glorify God more. Like, I'm not gaining any of his love by doing good. Like, I already have it. And he does not need me to do good. He doesn't need me to do anything. But the way that he designed me was to glorify him. And so that I was just sitting in that like, whew. So yeah, it really, it was all that emotion today was definitely stirred up from the fast. But one thing about the fast too, I told you I journaled like going into it to just like get my heart ready. I journaled at like 5:20 p.m., like right at the end of it. And it was just, I felt God reminding me like, you can have this time whenever you want it. Like, it doesn't have to be drastic. It doesn't have to be like, I'm not going to eat for 3 days. It doesn't have to be that. It can be. And sometimes that is like the best way to put your heart in that position. But like, for me to put my phone down for an evening, I can do that literally whenever I want to. For me to like,
That's good.
yeah. And so it was a fast, but it really was just something that like I want to incorporate more. I want to just create intentional time dedicated to just God and just me and God more, because it was so sweet and it was so like exactly what my soul was looking for going into it. And I didn't even know what it was looking for, but it was just like, God, remind me of who I am. And like the reminder that I needed was like, you are but a grain of sand in an infinite beach. And I like needed that reminder. And I'm so thankful for that.
It humbled you in a way.
Absolutely, it did.
As you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, I've done 2 3 day fasts, and I think the first one actually wasn't really faith related. I got, I'm sure just online you hear about how trendy fasting is, and oh my gosh, it's so good for your health and all that. And so I got sucked into that. Like, this is going to restore my physical health. That's the only reason I was doing it. And if I had to guess why it got, spurred on, I guess one was other people were doing it. And then number two would have been maybe self-indulgence. So like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, it doesn't need to be 3 days. It could be, okay, I usually eat first thing in the morning. Maybe I'm not going to eat till 5 p.m. today. And I usually am on my phone a lot or watching TV in the afternoon. Today I'm going to read my Bible. And I guess in my mind, like, I'm even processing like the times I have done those 3 days. I wonder if it's because I went so far off track that I'm like, okay, now I need to like do something extreme to get back on track here. I also, the last one I did, I remember emotionally it was gripping. Like, I've heard the story of how Jesus died on the cross, and like so many times since I was a young boy. And I found myself like, I'm a big bath guy. So I was, taking a bath in the morning. And
a morning bath.
Morning bath. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think evening, but keep going.
Yeah. Side note, I think Winston Churchill was this is just totally off topic. I think he was a big bath
There was
guy.
one of those presidents who like got a special bath put in the White House or something. Someone will fact check us. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyways, big bath guy. So I'm taking a bath, and
Winston Churchill was.
I thought you were saying, was he there? He was not there.
One of the presidents got a bath put in the White House because he loved taking baths. Keep going.
This just becomes about Winston.
Yeah. What's your favorite bubble bath soap?
Lavender. No, Jake.
Keep going. Took a bath in the morning.
Yeah, a big bath bomb. Now I'm just thinking about soaps, baths. And so I was reading an article. So it was an article. It wasn't usually like music can bring me to tears, or a movie can bring me to tears. It was an article. And like, what got me was it was again, I've heard all these stories before, but it just like really hit me the night before he was captured, how Jesus washed the feet of all the disciples. And like, and maybe as you're reading Job, it was something similar where you're putting yourself in Job's shoes. You're also like seeing it from God's perspective. So when Jesus was washing their feet and I'm reading this article, I literally thought to myself, if today is my last day, or tonight or tomorrow, I know I'm going to get captured, what would I do today? What pleasures would I do for myself, for my joy, my peace, my love, all these things? What would I do? Would I watch my favorite movie today? Would I go eat my favorite croissant or pastry, which I love those things? Go get a nice coffee, go say hi to my family. Would I be serving? And like, just his heart posture in that, dude, I lost it. I was like, you're telling me the Son of God on his, like, before getting captured, was washing feet, which at the time was, I believe they said that was, like, all the disciples were like looking down upon it. I'm pretty sure Peter was like, oh, master, like, you're not going to do that. That's way below us, Yeah. I think slaves were the ones who did that at that time. And so he was literally, talk about like humbling the disciples. Like, God sets the bar. We don't set the bar. God creates. God created us. God created all of this. So yeah, like for us to complain, for us to say like, come on, God, where's my blessing? You're late today. Where are you? Come on. It's like, we're not the boss.
Yeah.
We're talking to God like we're the boss.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And even there's another song we sang this morning, but like, I'll never understand the weight of my sin on that cross. Like, I will never, until I'm up there with you, I will never comprehend like what that was like. And yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but like I have things, right? I'm born into this world with a certain perspective, or I'm raised and I have this certain way that I view things or way that I speak. And maybe I have a certain car that I drive. And like it's so hard for me to hold on to that. It's so hard. Like I use like you as an example. Like if I have a great business mind, like you can have a successful business as you did, but like it's stressful. It causes anxiety. You worry about it and you think about business all the time and like what's the next best move and where should I put this money and what company should we use to produce this thing, and like it's stressful and you're worried about it. And the only way for that gift to flourish as much as it can is to give it back to God. And that's what I mean when I say like everything that I have, I want to glorify him with. So like if I have this beautiful business mind, like God, I want this business to be yours and I want it to glorify you. And whatever steps you would have me take so that this business makes your name known, not mine, yours, like those are the steps that I want to take. And that's the only way that the anxiety goes away. The fear around business goes away. The stress goes away. It's like, that's the only way that you ever reach the potential that your business mind has inside of it, is like giving it back to God. And you use an example. You were talking about Abraham and Isaac, and it's like Abraham wanted a son so bad. And God told Abraham, like, I've given you a son in your old age. And like, now I want you to walk him up that mountain. I want you to sacrifice him. And it got to the point where like Abraham is going to. He is like coming down with a knife, and God's like, all right, stop. Now I know that you would give me your son back. And it's like the only way that I ever can even love my son, I don't have a son, but like the only way that Abraham could ever love his son in the way that God intended is to give Isaac back to God, is to be like, God, you are worth more to me than my son. And like, that's the only, like, I can love Isaac so much better if he's in your hands. Like, you teach me how to love my son. Like, I can't hold that. Like, husband and wife, same thing. Like, the way to love my wife best is to give her to God. Don't have a wife either, but like, is to give her to God, is to be like, God, what would you say to her? How would you treat her? Like, what is best for her in your eyes?
Yeah.
Not in mine. And like, that's the only way for like a marriage to even be what God intended it to be, is to like surrender all of that. Like, my plans, like, they're great and they're stressful and they worry, but like, God's like, I know he's got it. I know he's got it. I don't have to worry about it. And like, it is always the best step if it is God's step, always. And so like, anything that I have, all of my possessions, all of my things, like, I want to give them back to God, because that's the only way that they ever become what he intended them to be, which is to glorify his name more. That's my recurring theme. That's my recurring theme for my fast. Sorry.
It's hard.
It's so hard. That's what, and I think it's like another dimension of surrender.
Like I'm Abraham. I've lived a long life. I want this son, and I finally get this son. It's a miracle. And I think my instinct would be to do everything I can do to protect my son. And then the ultimate test from God to say, Abraham, you know, it's Isaac. You're gonna go to this mountain and you're gonna sacrifice Isaac for me. And just like picturing that whole process. I also don't have a son, but you know, you can't tell your son what's happening. I mean, you can. I don't even know how that would help.
It's going to be a lot harder to get him up the mountain, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like a teenager at that point too.
It's just a lot. Like, I think it's easy. It's easy to read this stuff in this book and say, yeah, I would have done what Abraham did.
That is exactly what I was about to talk about. And that is what Job reminded me of. Is like, I love to think like, yeah, of course, if God told me to walk up the mountain and sacrifice my son, and here, yeah, I'd do it. And like, I love you pointed out earlier, like Jesus was perfect. And I love to live in that of like Christ making me perfect, but I'm not him. And although I can read a story and I can be like, yeah, if Jonah, like let's say God told me to go preach to these people who are evil and mean and rude and like that I don't want to. Like I love to think like, yeah, I'd go do that. And that's my pride talking. Because like Abraham was also a grain of sand. Jonah, also a grain of sand. Like
imperfect.
I am no different. I am no better. And so like my pride loves to think like, I've read this book. Yeah. Like, yeah, I can do all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do all
Here's
these
my son. Have him.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I don't know if I'll ever understand the depth in some of these stories. Like, I think once I have a son, if I ever do have a son, like that story will paint a completely different picture in my mind. And like my son will be something that I have to not physically like surrender, hopefully, but like in my heart, I will have to give my son to God in the same way that Abraham did. And for me to sit here and say like, yeah, I'd do that. It's just like, God's like, dude, Abraham was a grain of sand. You are also a grain of sand. Like you are not Jesus. And although like I want to do miracles through you too, you will still never be Jesus. And so like my pride wants to tell me like, dude, you're doing great. And like, yeah, you would do all of these things. And then I read Job and I'm like, dude, I would sit in that self-pity for so long. For so long. And I don't like, I'd be like, God, who are you to take all these things away from me? Have I not been a good boy? Like I would. I know that I would. And it was just like a reminder of like, dude, you are so small. What do you think like real surrender in your heart looks like? Like how do you know you're there? Or what's the first step to get there?
For me, it doesn't really all happen at once. It's a process, and a little bit like forgiveness. You know, I can say I forgive someone, but just saying it is kind of like the first step. And then it's like I question, well, do I actually forgive them? And like, if I don't, why? Am I angry? Am I bitter, resentful? What's going on? Can I pray about that? How can I like move this into actual forgiveness? And I think it's a bit similar in surrender. Like, I mean, forgiveness is a form of surrender, right? So, yeah, surrender, at least for me, it's a process, and you have to be fully honest with yourself. You can say all day long that you surrender something, but then when the opportunity arises for you to receive that thing that you want to surrender, let's say it's sex, because that's just something I have surrendered until marriage. Like, I can talk about it all day long. I could talk on this podcast about it, but if I get a text at a certain time from a certain someone wanting that like how I respond to that is surrender. That's in its purest form, is like, what are you going to do when God tells you to sacrifice your son? And so, yeah, it's a really good question. I don't know if I exactly know how I specifically surrender, but I think just very action stepped, and like how am I approaching this? Am I approaching it with honesty? Am I, if I sit, we've talked the same thing about sin before. And like, if you were to draw a line in the sand and there's sin on one side and there's, let's say, holiness or godliness on the other side, how do you have to walk right near the line? Do you have to walk right near sin? Do you have to walk right near the thing that I'm surrendering and think all day long, I'm not having sex again today? What about like, I'm feeling so much peace. I'm feeling closer to God today. Like, I don't know if any of this is making sense, but like, yeah. So maybe focusing more on the thing that is giving you a blessing than the thing that you are surrendering.
That's good. Yeah, I had a vision one time of like a literal line in the sand, and on one side of that line like was sin, and on the other side is, as you said, godliness, holiness, abundance. And I felt like for me, for so long in my life, like I tiptoed on that line, afraid to like fall on the side of sin. And like what God is saying is like, there is this entire other side of the line. You don't have to be anywhere close to the line. And in fact, it is your choice to be close to that line. Like, and God also doesn't want us fear. This is one thing that I've sat with for a while. Fear of the Lord or fear of God is completely different than almost like the fear of letting him down. Like the fear of me sinning is different than the fear of God himself. And I think it's easy to get the two confused, but like, I don't want to live my life afraid of going to hell.
Right.
But I do want to fear the Lord. And fear in that aspect is, as we've all talked about, like something that I'm still trying to define in my brain, what healthy fear of the Lord practically looks like. And but I do know that it's different than fear of hell. I know it's different than like the fear of sinning. And so like, I don't have to walk anywhere close to that line, like afraid to sin. God's saying there's this whole other like side of the line that is abundance and beauty. And I want to walk in that, like nowhere close to the line. And obviously I'm going to sin, but I'm not afraid of that. Like I want to have a repentant heart when that happens, but I'm not afraid of sinning because I know I will fall short.
Yeah. That's good.
right now, fill me in on your weekend.
We're both we're having some nice like breakfast tea right now. Having a little tea sip. Afternoon tea.
Afternoon tea. Fill me in on your weekend.
It was a good one. It's just, I've been surrounded by so many good people this year and found so much joy doing things that, you know, I guess someone could say are like mundane, like going for a walk with my friends near King Street late at night, and we walked into this honey shop, and like it was so much fun. We tried all these different honey flavors, and I love honey. I put it in like everything, and I got some like honey chocolates, and it was a great time. We did lots of other things. It's definitely holiday season out here. Lots of Christmas lights, and again, just doing things that in the past I would have needed drugs or I would have needed alcohol, and I would have needed loud music to have a good time on this similar Friday night. And yeah, it was just such a blast, so much fun, such good people. And yeah, like I feel like I've been filling up my like so-called going out or special moments throughout my day with that. Similar to like today, we got brunch with great people. Our friend Josh, his family, you know, Devin, Dorina, Kirsten. It was such a great time, and it's all wild when you like take a step back too and think of like how we all came to know each other as well. And to know that like God's right there in the center of it. And I don't know, just like deep, honest conversations all the time. Like if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, wow, these guys are like raw and real and like they just leave it all out there. Like, you know, it was really hard for me to find deep conversations like this. I'll say that. And I think in my earlier life, if a conversation I was having with someone wasn't deep, you know, and say it was just like, I would just, I would play off the tone that they've set, I guess. But now, even if someone doesn't want to have a deep conversation, I'll just like ask them questions. You know, why did you love this service today? And you're really good about doing that. Like, you know, like a barista telling you like, hey, good morning. What would you like to order? Are you having a good day? You know, they usually probably say, are you having a good day? And then what would you like to order? I'm not a barista, but you know, and you just say to them like, yeah, I'm having a good day. How are you? And they say, good, good. Well, why? You know, like, I don't know. I get so much joy out of conversations like that. I feel like it lights me up, intellectually, mentally, spiritually, all of it. Because it's getting down to like the meat on the bones. And it's like, before I was like, just maybe, I don't know, on the plastic. It was the surface. It wasn't deep inside.
Some would say it cuts through bone and marrow.
That's good.
A little biblical joke. Okay, one question. I think you have been in a similar place to me where I viewed like a walk with friends on a Friday night as almost like lame. Like I've been in that place in my life. And so how do you redefine that in your brain? Like how because you and I now, like so much more life is brought from those things that you and I used to view as like lame. Like I cannot believe you're doing that on a Friday night. Like we're going to the bar and like there's this private event we're going to and there's like a VIP section, and like in a world that like values that, how do you redefine what that joy is?
I think it is being redefined as I go and experience these moments. Does that make sense? Like I could go to Uptown Social, and I used to do that all the time here in Charleston, and be there till 2 a.m. and drink until I fall down, you know? And if I go there now and I'm sober and I'm having a great time and I'm dancing till 2 a.m., that just in itself shows me like I can have a good time without alcohol. I love to dance. So, you know, I sometimes might break out my Michael Jackson glove, you know, a little moonwalk. No, but yeah, I think it's redefined as you experience these new moments and you realize, like, for me, you know, genuinely, if you were like, Brady, do you want to just, like, I don't know, come meet me somewhere? We just talk. Like, I can have a good time doing that. And when you realize that, it actually, like, I used to always think like, oh, we got to go to a movie or we got to go do this or, you know, we got to go fishing or go do that. Those things are awesome and I appreciate them and I'm blessed by it. But I think I needed the rush before. I needed a certain experience to have fun. And now, like, I'm in good company. It doesn't matter where we are or what we're doing. I'm going to have a good time.
Do you think it's like the fruit that comes from, like, all right, let's say it's a Friday night. You have a decision. You can go for a walk with your friends or you can go to the bar and drink. Do you think it's seeing the fruit from that decision that you make that leads to, like, this one's actually joy and this one's actually temporary happiness? I think it's seeing the tangible fruit in your life.
I think so. It wasn't like I went to Uptown one night, you know. It wasn't like I tried to drink one time and, like, I let it run its course for a long time, probably a decade.
Yeah.
And
that's it.
I probably first started drinking when I was like 13, so maybe even more. But my high school drinking compared to college, it was a joke compared to college. Yeah, I saw the fruit and I was not impressed.
Yeah.
And you know, and then you just step back for a second. And I think you actually mentioned this. You see all the advertisements, you know, whether it's alcohol or all these things, the subtlety behind indulgence, whether it's in unhealthy food or all this stuff. You take a step back and it's like, but where's the advertisement? I heard, I wish I can remember. I think it's she's an incredible preacher. She has her own podcast. I want to say her name's Sadie. Could be totally off. Do you know? Maybe it's not. I don't know.
What'd she say?
Anyways, what she said though, she was like, these advertisements say take an alcohol brand. Where's the ad showing the reality of what it's like to wake up a night after pounding one of your Jack Daniels bottles?
Yeah.
Where's that ad? Where's the ad where it breaks up the family and you can't pay your bills and you cheat on your wife and da 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 da? I'm not saying it's all on the alcohol brand, but what I am saying is show some of the aftermath. And I think what I've been seeing with the aftermath of faith and a relationship with God is joy, is peace, is love. I don't feel those things all the time. I'm not going to lie, but I feel those things so much more presently in my life than I did when I was chasing the things that the world promises you will bring you all this happiness.
That's good. Okay. What is a deep convo to you? Define that for me.
anything that really makes me like take a second to think deeply about. I love comedy, I love satire, but um, our friend Josh has even told me like it was surprising to learn that you had this such a deep side to you, and it's like the satire, the comedy, it's great, but if that's my whole life, like no, what you're seeing from me in this podcast, this is my true nature.
Yeah.
And I think the best part of life is the who am I, is the like what's going on, man? Like what are we here for? What are we here to do? Why are we here? Like um when I go outside and go for a run, that makes me feel good. Why? Just like instead of, we can get caught in this just following what other people are doing, these trends, but not asking why.
Do you think that deep, quote unquote deep, has anything to do with spiritual growth or character development or conviction?
I want to say yes.
That was where my mind went when you were talking and you said like you had deep convos with people. For me, that's what I was thinking is like, first off, joy was redefined. Like what I thought joy was from when I was going out, when I was partying, when I was drinking, when I was chasing women, like that was happiness. Although I tried to like put it in the place of joy, it could never fit and it never fit right. And the deep convos are what make the other thing much more worth it, at least for me.
Mm.
And when I say deep convos, it doesn't necessarily have to be with a human. Like it can be with God. It can
Right,
be,
right.
and like I want to bring God into every conversation that I have, every thought that I have. And so for me, that's why I asked the thing about fruit too, is like I see from this deep convo, like my soul is growing or it's challenged in this way. But whatever we're talking about, whatever I'm doing, it is stirring something in my soul, whether it be positive, whether it be like challenging and convicting, like that is how I think I would define deep.
Maybe even feeding your soul.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I got an appetite right now. I better feed this. I
Yeah.
better have a deep conversation.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, if I had a week of non-deep conversations, I feel like my fruit would reflect that personally for me. And that's including conversations with God, I think. Definitely.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. I went on a bachelor trip. It's probably like a year ago. I didn't do anything like crazy or bad, but I was having different conversations. I was having different conversations with people. It wasn't necessarily like my normal group of people that I'm around on a day-to-day basis. And so I was having different conversations with people, and I wasn't doing it. Like I said, I wasn't doing anything bad, but I came back from that trip and like my soul felt it. And it took me a while to like, when I told you the story, like I said a cuss word, and I'm not condemning anyone who cusses, but for me, it was like a
Wait, this is interesting because I was literally just thinking about this. Was this on the trip?
right when I got back from the trip. Right when I got back from the trip, I said a cuss word, and at that point I hadn't cussed in like years, and so I was like, "Whoa!" Like that, just like caught me off guard. I was like, "I cannot believe I just said that," and that for me was like a light bulb going off in my head of like, "Whoa, you are thinking about things, you're processing things differently. And it was the conversations I had been having. It was like the environments that I had been in. Not that I was choosing evil or anything, but just like what was around me had influenced my soul, and like my soul was reflecting that. And that's why, like, whether you cuss or don't cuss, I don't judge you either way. And it was something that I felt convicted of, and so I took it out of my life. But like I said, that cuss word, and like that made me aware that like my heart needed to like heal a little bit. I needed to have some deep convos. I needed like my spirit to grow, get challenged. Like the way that I'm looking at things is different. Like my intentions, my motives are different, even if it's just a little bit than they were before I went on that trip. And so like I totally relate to that.
I think it's good timing to share that I actually did. Yeah. So I want to give context as well. I used to cuss
Same.
all the time. My mom growing up would get very upset when I cussed, and no matter what she did, it would not stop me from cussing. And it was like I don't think I could have said a sentence without saying a cuss word, genuinely. And this year I watched a podcast. I don't know if it was on Girls Gone Bible. It was the two ladies who run Girls Gone Bible, and they were with George Janko. And they were explaining a verse in scripture to George Janko where Peter is denying that he has any association or knows Jesus at the time of Jesus, being captured. And I don't know which gospel it was, but the third time he denies, it says he curses and then denies, like almost like, I don't know him, And it's like what they pointed out is like in the time that he could have said, yep, I'm on his side, I know him, whatever, come at me. Like I'm a fool for Jesus and whatever. Have at me. He decided to use that as like separation. For whatever reason, I'm not, again, condemning it. If it, again, I could be wrong on this, but for me, it convicted me. When I heard that, I was like, I see that. When I use this language, you're all talking about like the temple that is our body and our mouth and our tongue. This gift that God has given us, does cursing glorify God? And anyways, was very convicted on that, tried to stop cursing, struggled a good bit with it. And on our I think it was our summer camp trip, we went out to, it was a beautiful like Christian camp that we went out and got to support I was supporting 10th graders. I think you were
9th graders
supporting the 9th grade boys. And it was a great trip. I'll get right down to it. There was like a blackout on the campus, and I was running over to Dom's cabin.
When he says blackout, like the power went out.
Sorry. Yeah. Power went out. Not like, yeah. Good job, Dom. Good job. And so I run over to Dom's cabin, and there was like a drain. No, it wasn't a drain. It was
what's the word? Culvern? It was a drain.
It was a drain?
Like a giant concrete drain protruding from the ground.
Yeah, it was huge, but it was like over this hill. It was really dark. I couldn't see anything. And I ran right over it, face planted, and I said the S word. And what was funny is like I got this scar on my knee, and I remembered. I was like, well, I'm going to remember, where I was when I cussed. And I was like, maybe this is like the last time I'll cuss. Anyways, fast forward to, so that was July of this year, been a couple months and hadn't cussed, and was in a conversation with my friend. I don't know if he wants me to share his name. Anyways, it was a couple days ago, And I wasn't even saying the word in as if it was my perspective. I was talking about maybe like how I used to treat women, or how certain men out there take advantage of women. And I was putting myself in their shoes. And I said the cuss word and the F word, and not fun. That's a different word. And right when I said it, man, I felt so convicted. My cheeks like got like swelled up, and like I felt so convicted. And yeah, I just want to share that on the podcast, because like as we go through this, like we are walking out our faith. And again, for me, it's important the words I use and the words that come out of my mouth. And you're really good about this. Like your yes be yes, your no be no. Like I am the same person on this podcast, off this podcast. And the moment you don't see my full self, and you don't see my flaws and my mistakes and my flare ups, like that is the moment I am not being fully truthful with people that listen to this. So yeah, I just want to share that. And I shared it with you and some other friends right after it happened. And the first person I shared it with was God, and started, a little bit of like, sorry, sorry, sorry. But then it was just like, thank you. And like, wow, think of how I couldn't say a sentence without saying language that, again, from I could be wrong on this, but from my experience, doesn't lift up God, doesn't glorify God. And now, trip up, but not as much. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the external things, the words we say, the actions that we do, it's such a, and speaking from experience, like you can only act so long before the real, how my heart's feeling, how my soul's feeling actually comes out. And I know for me, like it used to be exhausting to try and act joyful when like I am angry and mad and depressed, or to go into a dinner with family and like not say a cuss word, because like that actually, like if you catch me outside of the circle, like that's what I'm actually doing. And it took me so long to realize that it's actually inside. It's not just like white knuckle it and hold on and try not to cuss. It's like, for me, it was like, what's my soul feeling that like wants to say that?
Yeah.
Like what is,
And that was your response.
yeah.
Dom's text to me was, "How's your heart?" And I did like when I texted you back, I said, "I think it's good right now." It felt like it was good.
Yeah.
And then, later on that day I was journaling, and then I was like, "Oh, I think there could be a little something there."
Yeah,
And it's but I think that's exactly what you're saying. Like, how's your heart? How's your soul?
Yeah.
There could be something there that you can't see.
Yeah. And well, first off, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, one thing about, especially as we talk about cussing, and like it's not like you jumped off the deep end, and convictions are so different for everybody, for everyone. And for some people, like cussing, maybe that's exactly what you feel convicted of. Like when you hear us talk, like maybe cussing is something that you want to be better about. Maybe it's not. Maybe you feel convicted about the patience that you have with your children. Maybe that's what you feel convicted of. Maybe cussing, that's not what you feel convicted of right now. And like Brady and I are just speaking from personal experience. Like that's something that I have felt convicted of in my life. But convictions are so different for different people at different stages, and like God's intentions behind giving you that conviction to feel like something in my soul needs to change in this area. It's not necessarily cussing, and it's not like cussing sending you straight to hell. That's not true. But I do encourage people to listen, all of us, me included, like listen more to convictions that we feel, in terms of like, I feel like this is not benefiting my life. It's not glorifying God more. And like tracing it, for me at least, tracing it all the way back to the intentions in my heart. How am I viewing that person? Why am I viewing them that way? Like if someone says something and I instantly am like, that's frustrating. Why? I want to know why. I don't want to just like look at you as a frustrating person. Like there's something inside of me that is choosing to see the bad, that's choosing to see like the not good parts of you. And so I want to address my part of it, because like it's not your fault that you don't talk the exact way that I talk. You don't think the exact way that I think. And who am I to say that like mine's even right? You know? And so I want to look at the beautiful parts of you. And it doesn't matter who you are, friend, enemy, loved one. Like I want to look at the beautiful parts of you. And I want to be like, have felt convicted of that. And so like that's who I want to be. And I know that externally, like how you speak to me really shouldn't play an effect in that. If I view the beautiful parts of you or not, if you speak harshly to me, rude, mean, or if you're kind and loving, like either way, I want to view the beautiful parts of you. And obviously I want to call you higher and things that like I see, and I want you to do the same, but like still like out of love. You know?
Right.
But anyways, for me, deep convo is spiritual growth. And like even this, it's like, how can my soul grow more? And that's why it feels deep. And yeah, I had someone ask me like, well, like, how does it feel like being behind a microphone and you know it's getting recorded?
That's a good question.
Well, my response is like, I am me.
Yeah.
Like if you see me outside of this podcast, this is how I talk. These are the things that I talk about.
This is true.
All the time. And so like, I don't know, like deep to me, I want to talk about souls. I want to talk about spirits. I want to talk about like things that last forever. And like, obviously I have conversations about work and about the apartment that I live in. And there's parts that like I will have to, but like to really know me and for me to really know you, like let's talk about our souls, you know? And that's who I want to be. But yeah, I love deep combo. Love deep combo.
That's so good. We have, how are we doing on time real quick? You know,
We're good.
we're good. Okay. So one of our followers of the podcast, Darina, has written us a question. And so I'd like to bring up Darina's question. Just read it, so I haven't really thought too much about it. I'll read it now. When do you feel the most authentic to yourself? It's a good question, Darina.
Darina, that is a great question. And I remember when you wrote the question down, I have not heard the question or read the question until now, but I remember when you wrote it down. And we had just finished a Bible study and we were talking about heaven and what we imagine it to be like. And I know that in heaven, I will be my most authentic self. And so for me, when I'm here on earth, as I have talked about extensively and what Job kind of revealed to me, my most authentic self glorifies God with everything that he has. And when I am doing that, that's when I know that I'm being my most authentic self. When in this moment right now, I could do nothing more to glorify God. And even in me saying that, I think there is always something that maybe we're not aware of that like I could glorify God more with. But I know that the more that I glorify God, the more I feel authentically me. Whether it's the words that I choose to say to you or to a friend or the action that I'm doing, like I know that serving you in this way shows you part of God's heart. And so I feel like authentically myself showing you God's heart.
That's good. So
That would be my response during.
pretty good answer. I guess I got to follow that up. Yeah, I think when I think of authenticity, I think of like honesty. Are you being honest with yourself and others and with God? And I used to be very inauthentic. I used to be very I used to lie a lot, and I still trip up and lie, and I think of the verse about God knowing our heart, and when I know where my heart is, and that is being reflected to others and to God, exactly where my heart is in that moment, whether it's good or bad, or whether it will be received well, or like it's just true. My heart hurts right now, or my heart feels good, or I'm feeling peace, or I'm feeling anger, and I can bring that to God in full honesty and transparency. I think that is when I feel the most authentic.
Good answer.
It's okay. Well done, Dorina. And yeah, I really like this. So, if you're listening, we have some social media out. Our awesome.
Is it out?
I think social media is starting to come out.
Let's go. By the time you hear this, it'll definitely be out.
Yeah, I think we have an Instagram now and a TikTok. Who Am I Pod at Who Am I Pod. I'm pretty sure. We should know these things.
I mean,
Katie,
we got like 5 weeks until this episode comes out, so.
Yeah. Anyways, Katie, yeah. Oh, they're all gonna be definitely, yeah. They'll be posting stuff on there, and Katie does a great job. So shout out to Katie again.
Katie is the magician behind it all. But yeah, write in some questions. We'd love to answer some questions. Or
Fun.
Even thoughts, feedback. Like, love to hear it all. But if you're listening, thank you for listening.
The monkey is doing its thing.
The monkey's doing its thing. That is going to do it for.
All right. We love y'all. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.